recording in progress of the best town hall of the history of town halls.
That's right. Up only, each one better than the last. I think this is number 8 for Republic Town Hall. And yeah, I don't know. In absence of any better suggestions, I just like to go around, and I think we can maybe drop the intros if we want, but I do like to just pull people if they want to throw some items up for discussion. If not, we'll just say, hey, how are you doing? Phil, you want to go first and then hand it off to somebody else?
Yeah. Hey, I feel doing good. Items I would like to discuss are the ones I mentioned in the Discord server, and I think just like let's keep the discussion going. I think we're on a good streak, so let's keep it up. I'll pass the mic to my friend Emery.
I'm good. I checked out the agenda for today, and it looks all good to me. Excited for the topics, especially the Discord invite link question, because I've been wanting that for a while. But I also understand Keith. But so I'm excited to the conversation. Passing the mic to John.
I'm good. Just catching my breath here and trying to, keep up with both work and all this excitement that's happening in the data world. And things are moving really fast. Lots of new podcasts popping up that are mentioning identity and data. So new stuff coming out every day. And as Keith was saying, the Web2 industry is playing whack-a-mole, trying to stop the decentralization of it, and it's not working. So
yeah, I was sending John a tweet about, I think it's Hetzner is, I don't know if they updated their terms of service or if somebody just discovered it, but a lot of people use it for like Cosmos and Ethereum node hosting, and they've made it explicit that that's not okay, at least with like a virtual private server. So if you're like co-locating or you have like a dedicated server, it's fine. But if you're like using their cheap kind of shared server, then like that's not okay. So it's just interesting. Companies are like shoving people off and other companies are like welcoming people on, and in the end it's kind of like gradually decentralizing all these points of Web 2. So it's kind of interesting. My wife, Jenny, you want to
I'm Jenny, his wife. I'm in one of the playrooms, if you can see. There's some good Calico Critter action happening back there. And I have a day job where I sell software. And then I like to be on these calls because it's fun. And then I know what Keith is talking about. And y'all know the rest.
Cool.
Christian?
Maybe just give a quick intro. It's my first time in here. So yeah, I'm Christian. I'm here based in New York. So right now I'm working at ecosystem development as part of Ocean Protocol. I've been in the Web3 space since like about 2020. I'm working for a few consulting projects for emerging kind of layer ones, and I had some more background in e-commerce and kind of working with e-commerce data. So now as part of my job here, I'm really just kind of going around looking to support kind of all projects, kind of working in this data and ML space. And so kind of my back, he kind of followed Republic a few months ago. Started like kind of got on my radar. So I reached out to Keith and kind of introduced him to Ocean. And now he just got a grant from us as part of our monthly town hall to integrate kind of a Republic with Ocean. And so yeah, I'm excited to hear about the topic for kind of the vision for Republic and on this agenda.
All right, cool. Yeah, and I just added maybe an Ocean Protocol update towards the end. We could talk about that. Yeah, why don't we get the Discord link discussion out of the way. Emery, you have strong feelings about it. So the question is, right, well, the state of it is it's on the mobile app, so people could come in that way. Occasionally I'll drop it in like a blog post, because if people are reading that blog post, then they've gone through some effort to find us. And I think the downside to that is just like we're not growing very fast. It's hard to find us. Like people are kind of unsure, what Republic is. The upside is just that the people who do come here are like very motivated. I find like high quality. We don't get a lot of like token speculators or just like people who don't really care, and they're just kind of I think a lot of people just cruise the Discords looking for like alpha and token launch dates and whatnot. So but yeah, I don't know if that's caused us to have like this small group of like high quality people, but that was kind of the goal, and that seems to be happening. But like at some point we do need to change and open up and get the word out more. So I'm open to putting it wherever you all think makes sense. Emery, what do you think?
I think making it easier for people to find the Discord is gonna make it, help get some more feedback, more eyeballs.
Okay. Do you think on the homepage it could be in the top nav, or where do you think we should put it?
Yeah, somewhere on the homepage would be great as well, because then people from Twitter, if they go to the homepage, they will be able to find it.
Yeah.
I guess
Oh, go ahead, Christian.
I was just saying, maybe for this discussion to also help, like for understanding what type of people you guys most want to have in your Discord. Is the kind of individuals that are kind of using the Republic app, or other kind of builders that might be kind of be able to make use of it? Like, I guess who is like kind of the target audience you want in the Discord?
Yeah, I think we all might have different opinions on that. I'm just kind of looking for people who are gonna engage regularly, whether it's because they have the app and they're like complaining or like requesting features, or whether it's people who are here for the DAO part of it and governance, or whether it's just like data ownership evangelists or something. It's just for me, like, I want you in the Discord if you're actually gonna like say stuff or comment or do stuff, but not so much interested in the lurkers, as it were. But I don't know, that's just my thoughts. Emery, like, who do you see joining if we put it on the homepage?
I don't know. We'll see.
I'd go for also, Keith, I think I'm in the homepage camp also. I think it could be a good, because I was thinking when I messaged you yesterday, because I was trying to find the link, and I'm like, where can I get into Discord? So I think somewhere on the homepage could be useful. Like, I know we've got like the App Store link, the Google Play link, maybe in the middle between both, just somewhere that's, or in the footer if we want to make harder, but just somewhere on the website I think would be a good start. Because if you make it to the website, you're at least like, you've got some sort of interest.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I guess another part of this is just Discord can be a little bit like divisive, like a lot of people don't like it. And so like with Journo DAO, another DAO that I'm part of, we kind of settled on, journalists especially didn't take to Discord. And so the idea was to send everybody who's interested to the blog and sign up. And then that way, we do our like weekly blog updates and then get it as a newsletter in their inbox and emails, just like a really, universal way for people to like say, hey, I'm interested in this. And so I think I didn't want to focus on Discord. And if we were to like direct people to like an action with Republic, I would want it to be just signing up with their email so that we can like stay in touch and I don't know, build our email list. And so I think we can still do that. But I would just vote for like not making like, oh, join our Discord like the main thing that we like tell people. I would say like, as long as we're all like, oh, just sign up for the blog, if you want, you can join the Discord, and that's kind of like the secondary thing if that's better for them. It's kind of like email, Discord, Twitter, or maybe Twitter and then Discord, like giving people options of like how to track what we're doing.
I always go to Discord as like a last option to me, honestly. Like I check out the website, the blog, then the Twitter, and yeah, even sometimes like a good old PHP forum is like, nice, just with threads, 90s style. And I was just trying to explain to my neighbor the other day what all this was about, and he's a data scientist, and he was just like, wow, that's some really cutting edge stuff. It's like, we don't normally in the data world, go into all that stuff. And I was, telling him, I was like, yeah, there's a lot of misconception that, people just see it as, oh, that's crypto, and they don't put the two and two together. And he hadn't really put the two. He said he's heard of Ocean, Ocean Protocol, but he's never really dug into it. And he heard it was cool, but he just hadn't had the time to look. So, I mean, I think Ocean is kind of one of those places that a lot of people maybe in that world know about, but haven't really looked into. Yeah, but it could be a starting point, some kind of association with Ocean, which I'm sure you'll get to a little bit later in this meeting.
And this is making me realize I don't even have our Twitter on the top nav of the homepage or anything. So I think I can refresh that and put the Discord on there.
And Keith, I think if we make, because right now, if you want to subscribe to a newsletter, you have to go, like, it's that subscribe button. Is that it? I think if we made it more obvious that, like, what you're subscribing to.
Okay. Yeah, that's just like the ghost default thing. So I just like slapped it on there, but we can, yeah, maybe make another just section on the website that explains it. I mean, the website's pretty stale in general. I'd like to redo it, but it just hasn't been a priority. All right, cool. Well, I'm putting those down as my like action items. Any more to say on that? Anywhere else besides the homepage we should put it? I guess I need to put it in the blog's like a separate platform, so I'll put it in that nav too.
I would make one suggestion as someone who's been getting into the whole environment over the last 3 weeks or 4 weeks. It would be nice if there were a static block that had all the relevant links. Like, I kind of get lost in forum, Discord. There's at least one or two other things. And I'm losing I have so many minutes a day that I can spend keeping up to date, responding to people. And I'm losing like 15 or 20% of that limited amount of time just figuring out where something was. Like, I know you said something interesting that I want to respond to, but then I can't remember where it is. And there's a links section in our Discord, but that's kind of an open posting thing. So the stuff that you want gets buried. So we ultimately need a sticky, or just like, there are really only 5 major assets. And I think those should just be frozen. And that same block of 5 should be present in all 5. So no matter which one you land in, you've got the roadmap to all 5.
Okay, yeah, that's a good idea. Do you think those should be on the homepage, or do you think the homepage should just stay like a kind of like a marketing page for the app?
I think that we should accept the uncertainty and the possibility of noise in favor of the gems. Like, you have to sort of pan through a lot of dirt to get the flakes of gold. And I think that I feel like we ought to take that chance and find people, because like, imagine somebody showing up who's super passionate and says, you know what, Keith, I'm going to keep track of all the communications and I'll be the webmaster. It'd be awesome if somebody raised their hand and said, I'll be a webmaster, or whatever. I'm just making up jobs that might be useful that are not the core app development that like another person could do on a volunteer basis. So I would certainly be inclined to take some risk in hunting for those people. I think that if a problem emerges where people are disruptive, we can sort of figure out a way to deal with that. I don't really care about lurkers. If they're silent, who cares? Whether it's one person who's silent or 1 million people, I worry a little bit about people who are disruptive, but so far that doesn't seem to be a big problem.
Okay, yeah, I'll think about how we could do that, like kind of a global nav on, because each platform's different. Like it would, you have to do like a custom thing for the blog and like the homepage and the forum and the clarity if we're gonna get that up. I mean, that's kind of like what Clarity tries to do. Like if you just send people there, then that's like the top funnel for all this stuff. And then that Clarity homepage is like, has some auto updating stuff. Like if we use it for task management, then those will kind of like auto update. And then you have like your wiki that you can like just do community postings and stuff.
Hmm.
But then that also just runs the risk of like adding another platform or something. So if it truly does like unify it, I think it can work, but it's kind of like a in practice sort of thing. If we're able to do that, then that can help. But yeah, that's a good point. I'll try and think about how that could just, if you're here, you can see everything else. And if you're here, you can see everything else. That's a good idea.
I feel like there are too many platforms right now. I find it there's a high cognitive overload, like burden in keeping track. Like I should put this idea here and that suggestion there. Like I'm having to spend some energy trying to curate where stuff goes.
Yeah, I agree with you, but I'm in like a lot of DAOs and have been in a lot of DAOs, and I've come to the conclusion that this is sort of like the nature of the beast in a way, because if you try and put like forum content in the Discord, then it moves around, you lose stuff. If you try and like do task management in Discord, it's like impossible. If you try and do, like, you have all these different content types that once you're like on the platform, it's definitely like a better experience. But then at the trade-off of this complexity that you're talking about that no one seems to be able to like manage.
Here's the great irony, right? Like, because I start companies, I've started another company, it's got 10 people. It's no different from this group of 10 people. And everybody has exactly the same problems, which is you want a single platform, you want SSO, you don't want to have lots of username proliferation. And over there, we use Slack, we use Google Docs, we use Coda, we use 2 or 3 other pieces of enterprise software that are all Web 2, but they're all stitched together. And when you enter the system, it's like a circle. No matter where you enter from, you can easily and smoothly get wherever else you're going, and all the links point to each other. So I think it's very ironic that right now we're in that trough where Web3 is like quite a bit worse than Web 2 because it's all disparate and disconnected.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, it's like, I'm not opposed to using Web 2 stuff. I mean, the forum software is pretty, that's been around forever. Discourse and Discord, we just use because that's like where the community is, but like Slack would work just as well. And there's nothing like Web3 about Discord other than just like the user base. And then,
I mean, I think what would be useful, what really stitches all that together is a domain. You have a workspace domain. So like we have a group of @blah. And then once you're issued an email address @blah, that becomes your universal key for single sign-on into everything. So that's the key enabler that makes that convenient. Anyway, I'm not advocating that we do or don't do that. I'm just pointing out that it's ironic. At the end of the day, a group of 10 people trying to do something, no matter what you may call it, Web 1, Web 2, Web 3, they have very, very similar needs.
yeah, that's a good point. I'm going to look into that. Like if we can issue, like if you're doing anything with Republic on a weekly basis, like can we get you a Republic email that gives you like that workspace access or something? Let me figure that out.
I know some people aren't, but I'm a big fan of FAQ pages. A lot of times they help me think of questions I've never even thought of. And that's one of the first things I usually go to a lot of times when I go to a website is I read through the FAQs just to see what I should be asking or what they think I should be asking. So
Totally. If you maybe send me some questions, then I could like use that to generate like you're kind of good at tracking like what people keep asking about over and over again, and like what the obvious things are that we kind of need to cover.
Yeah, and in there you can have where to point people to different specific styles of engagement. So
Mhm.
And John, I mean, I also have like potential questions for the FAQs. So do we put that on the forum or on the Discord? I think we
Maybe
could all
both.
punch.
You pin
Yeah.
it at the top of one of the Discord channels and then have it on the website. And I mean, I guess we would need to start with some kind of universal Google document that we can all access and start writing out questions and, have everybody answer them together.
I think, yep, it should link, the Discord should have a link to the forum, just so you only have to update it once.
Yeah. Yeah, so I would classify this as like forum content where it's like we kind of want a long lasting conversation thread where anyone who's interested, like, how did you come to this decision? They can kind of go back and see like what the initial idea was. Oh, and then this person said this and said this and said this, and then we kind of like update it with what we came up with at the end or whatever.
Oh, so you mean like in the FAQ specific question, have a link to the thread in either in the Discord or in the forum that shows how we got to that answer?
Well, we could do that, but I'm just saying like more internally, like if we're all going to be contributing questions and answers and like what that page should look like, we can do that as like a forum thread. Maybe that's relevant to the later, but just to get this like going and make sure that like nothing like what Summit's saying, like some of it's in Discord, some of it's on the forum. I think if anything's, if you ever feel like, oh, maybe somebody might want to like see this later or comment later, and it shouldn't go in the Discord, it should go in the forum, like is this going to be relevant in like a week? Then put on the forum.
Good. So forum, John, let's meet on there to put our potential questions.
It also has the added benefit of making the forum seem more like, lively. And so people are less likely to come to it and then bounce out because they see it's stale. And maybe to that end, we can talk about the vision post that I wrote and trying to, so it's pretty funny to like listen to that town hall where so I might mute you.
Oh, sorry.
Pretty funny to listen to that town hall and want to like, it felt like I was on a Zoom call and I wanted to like jump in and say stuff because that's like watching it. But then I couldn't. So like you all probably got like messages from me like as I got to certain points in the in the town hall or whatever. But yeah, I think I'd like to clarify things, but at the same time, like there is a certain amount of ambiguity to it, which I think we all keep like running up against. But I think the line that I'd like to take people's temperature on is the end goal is to seamlessly enact a person's will in the Dataverse in an automated way. People set and forget preferences, and then Republic negotiates deals on their behalf and helps them manage their digital assets. So a non-obvious component to that is just showing people what they have and help them make sense of it. So included in that vision is a lot of data visualization and extracting of insights, like for the user. So does that seem coherent enough, or is it like in the scale of like abstract and specific, like it's pretty abstract, but that's like kind of the top level. But then we could get into the specifics of like, so that needs licensing, that needs like a lot of UX, that needs mobile and desktop apps, that needs a community that can govern the platform, that needs data visualizations, that needs a storage solution, that needs a security solution for keeping all that data secure, that needs privacy tools, that needs a way to distribute your data, that needs a way for you to be compensated for your data. So it's a lot, and that's why this isn't like a venture-backed SaaS platform, because I think we're going to need an ecosystem and a community that feels empowered to, like, you know, improve each one of these things like independently, so that people who are interested and expert in licensing can kind of like take that and run with it. And it's not just, you know, me trying to wrangle like a bunch of best practices for licensing and open source stuff that users can use. I don't know. Phil, go ahead.
I just want to say that I love this vision. And I think that those two first lines, like the end goal, blah, 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 and then the second one right after, should be somewhere like on the website. I think I love this vision. It's it's something I want to participate in, but it's also a product, like, you know, I imagine myself that product. It's a product I would like to have and use in the future. And I think you've had, like, if you look, like, everyone's had a pretty, well, Summit and myself had a pretty, like, we both like the idea. So I think let's just see if the others like it also. Christian, you can go.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really like the vision. Then just like some clarifying points, I guess, to kind of figure out which part is like the value that Republic really focused on. So it sounds like you kind of want to be part of, like, almost on the business side, where you're kind of really operating as a data union. And so there's that, but you also kind of mentioned like wanting users to be able to kind of go in and see information about their own data and kind of mix and match it. And so on that end, those seem a little too, like, a little different focuses. And so I guess on one would be on the kind of data union side, is the goal there to help users like get as much money and revenue from their things as possible, where they kind of can pour all their data into Republic, and then you guys are doing the best job possible to negotiate and like kind of connect them with those that can make use of the data. And so focus on that end, or do you want to be more of a hub where if you pour all your data in and you're providing the tools to make it as easy as possible for them to generate their own insights. So I guess between like those two, which one do you think like Republic would want to kind of focus on more?
Yeah, for me, it's like I'm hoping to get input from the community on that, but also like my own thought is like that's means to an end of like universality. It's like you're going to have the people who don't want to share their data at all, and you're going to have the people who, like, right now want to make money like passively from their data from a variety of different apps. And so, and my hypothesis is that the people who don't want to share at all will eventually, like most of them, be in the second bucket. But the thing that's keeping them from being there already is like a lack of control. It's like the people who are interested in monetizing right now don't really care about control or privacy or whatever, maybe a little bit, but like, you know, seeing a passive income or revenue is like the most important thing. And that usually means like trading off your privacy and control of your data. And so in the short term, I would say I definitely want to have an answer for like the monetization crowd, but I think a lot of people are kind of already tackling that. There's a lot of options for those people right now, and I'm not sure Republic could and should like compete with those options, but I think we could definitely like be a gateway for those, like, and partner with people who are doing that. Kind of like, you know, I don't want to rebuild like what Ocean's doing, so I can just send Republic users to Ocean for like the functionality that Ocean provides, and then in the meantime I can, you know, try and make it better for like the crowd who doesn't want to share to actually get value out of their data without sharing it, just through like these insights and UX kind of products. I don't know, Phil, I see your hand raised, but Christian, does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. I have like some follow-up questions too, but like Phil can go first. Yeah, there's like hand raised.
I was just going to say, Christian, I think the question you asked really ties into what we've been discussing internally in the past week. Like, I think for now, like the monetization is part of the end goal and the vision, like this whole dream of what Republic will be. But right now, I think our focus is just trying to find a way where, there'll be like some value added to using Republic for the community and then people outside the community. So I think, and then you can go with your follow-up questions, and after I think it could be like a good timing for Summit maybe to discuss what you present on the forum.
Awesome, and thanks for that. And yeah, it sounds like kind of like, so just in general, what kind of were the uses of that? It kind of Republic just wants to be a hub where people go to like put their data in, and then you guys can kind of handle like the permissions and making sure it's like connecting it to those like the different ways they want to make use of it. Like you guys kind of acting as that connector piece. And so then one thing on that would be, I guess, which parts of like kind of the stack do you think like Republic is like, that's like we're going to design and build, that's versus like kind of what's one more commodity? Like, for example, like for the connectors to data, raw data sources, that there's a ton of companies that kind of handle that part. And so that's that kind of piece of a little bit of a commodity. And then companies that help kind of display data and create like nice dashboards and all that, like Streamlit, there's those companies that are doing that. So that can be, that's another one that can be just plug and play. And so it's just like, for which part of like, you think Republic is really where they're going to be designing and do? Is it kind of the storing or like, yeah. So that's kind of like more in general for which parts are already kind of more commodity versus what's Republic really building that's like going to be kind of like a new invention for this to help like facilitate this whole flow.
Yeah, and Summit's post kind of speaks to that as far as like a first consolidation of those ideas, but I would just say maybe interoperability is like the key thing that Republic brings. Like, I'm not interested in building any like new core tech or whatever, but I'm interested in like bringing the best stuff to users for whom that stuff, there's just too much friction. Like there's just too much cognitive overhead to navigate it all. And so we're kind of taking, the best privacy tools, the best Sybil resistance, the best like whatever, all these components, and then making it like into like one button for the user or something like that. If that, like, consume the complexity and then deliver simplicity through the UX. So, but then specifically, I think Summit, if you want to kind of go over your first idea for like how that might like manifest in the app.
Sure. So I think that there are a lot of things that could be valuable for users. One of them is to cause their data to be available in the apps they already use. Like we're not going to create a new app, Republic, that's like the be all super app. That is your running app, your food app, your fitness app, your this app, your that app, 20 different apps. Like it may be a useful daily use app, but it'll do one set of things. As a user, I want the apps that I already use to become more powerful by virtue of my data being available into those apps where it is not currently. So I put one really, really simple toy idea, and I have a lot more like that I can start writing out, but I wanted to kind of get other people writing out their ideas. I literally went running. I'm visiting Chicago right now. I went running in time that I hit go on Strava, which is what I did.
Oh, Summit, you're kind of cutting out here.
Strava is too high, but it made. Oh, sorry. I'm on a relatively bad connection. I just speak.
Maybe try taking your video off.
Why don't I turn off video while we're at it? Yeah, let me turn that off. Let me close some browser tabs.
Yeah, that's sounding better already.
Okay, is that any better?
Yeah, a lot better.
Okay. So just to kind of cut to the chase, I think it would be amazing if Republic enabled App A, which is a source of data, and App B, which is a destination for my data or a user of my data, to be able to make use of my data. So the example is, could Strava say, hey, you're a Republic user. That means that all of your Spotify playlists are sitting on your device. That means that if you want to import your playlist into Strava, you can, And then Strava can intelligently select songs from your playlists which match your running pace or your cycling pace. So really simple, 2 apps, 1 source, 1 destination, simple use case, which is don't just play a random song. Don't just play a song that I played 20 times. Play the song that matches my beats per minute of running. And so you're using a unique capability that Strava has. It's got the GPS. It's got the ability to discern my running pace. It's got the ability to translate that into a likely pace of hitting the ground. And then go algorithmically select songs who have a BPM that is going to match that in a way that makes me feel like I'm doing music coordinated cardio. So you can go with, I'll give you one quick other example just to get out of fitness and music for a second. There's a really popular dieting app called Noom. It's the #1 dieting app in the US. It's got like $800 million a year in revenue. It's got, I think, 4 million people using it. What people need to do in Noom is journal everything they eat. And that turns out to be a huge pain. So a lot of people churn out of this app, which, by the way, they pay $60 a month for. That's a lot of money for an ordinary person to be paying. And it's life-changing. Like, you go from being pre-diabetic to being, healthy. But people quit because journaling is too hard. 50-60% of the food that I eat comes in through Instacart, Amazon Fresh, DoorDash, Uber Eats, and a couple of other food apps. It would be really, really profoundly life-changing for millions of people if Republic could aggregate all of their food, put that in a repository, and just say, listen, user, anywhere that you want to translate or transfer all of your food, eating, preferences, all of the data, health app, medical app, Noom, you name it, we can just translate it over there. You could coordinate it with WeThink so that you could directly correlate that when you go on vacation and have 4 pizzas, which I'm about to do, that you gain 3 pounds. Like, that kind of information is really important in giving people clarity over like what their behaviors do. So it's not about advocating for any one data integration. I think that there are tens of thousands of data integrations. It's advocating for a non-financial, non-monetary use case, a kind of generic class of use cases, which is the ability to move any data that belongs to me from a source to any destination that I choose.
I was just reading. Go
Yeah.
ahead. I was just reading an article the other day about people with fibromyalgia and how they're like trying to do anything to figure out what's wrong with them and spending tons of money to similar to Noom, track what they're eating, what causes flare-ups, same with rheumatoid arthritis. And I think any sort of, that's a whole other segment, health, where you can also go down that road. So I think it's very smart.
Awesome. Yeah, it's like a really cool, interesting flow and kind of like I kind of built out. It sounds like it can kind of be possible with like a few kind of integrations and like passing data along to other companies that are kind of building more down the pipeline. So like Republic would be the ones kind of aggregating data and kind of like tagging it, and then maybe serving it to a company that helps like aggregate or make it more available in machine learning. And something like a company like Alkavir that might be able to take that data and train like that recommendation model, like, and then they can serve it on a marketplace. So then the individual app can go there and reference it in order to make use of it. And so kind of Republic, not like in order to facilitate that, not even having to build like the whole flow from like data to machine learning, but connecting with those that are handling like that part of the stack. And so like kind of I think all the pieces are currently really being built on like in different places. So it really is just kind of a matter of connecting them together for a whole flow. Because like what I've been kind of finding like recently, like yesterday I went to this kind of data meetup for a lot of Web 2 companies, like people that work in data, like in Web 2 sense. And so it's kind of interesting how like data engineering in that whole field and like kind of machine learning ops and all that, it's like completely 2 different stacks. It's like are too complicated for any one company to address. And so like we're going to have to kind of embrace kind of interoperability and working with others in order to kind of have this full flow to make use of it.
Yeah, that's interesting. The Summit, I think the only thing I don't like about your example is it seems like the winners there are like Strava and Noom. And I'm wondering if there's a way, like, how do you view those dynamics where like the user can be like the winner in that? I mean, because right now it sounds like a better Web 2 trade-off where it's like, okay, well, you as the user, you get like the insights and stuff, and you get the life improvements, which like I'm not knocking, like that might be better or whatever. But then commercially, like Strava gets like a whole new feature for their app that wouldn't be possible without, you know, something like Republic feeding it, you know, this data from its users, or, you know, Noom would have to do all this like development on their side, and that makes their product like a lot better. So I don't know, how do you view that exchange?
I think it's a very fair point, Keith. I use those examples because there are existing Web 2 apps that are really powerful and have a lot of value. I mean, Strava has 95 million users. That's a big app. It's like a shockingly big app. I think that if I'm the user in those cases, I feel like I'm the big winner. I grant your point that that made Noom a little better and it made Strava a little better, but I still feel like the user won more. And I feel like we were talking about the organizational difficulty of not having a domain and a workspace, and how like if you use Web 2 tools, 10 people can actually coordinate more easily. I think that from a user, like similarly, I don't think that we need the Web 2 companies to not win at all and the user to win a little. I think it's okay if the user wins a lot and the Web 2 company wins a little. Like as long as the relative benefit is still sort of in favor of the user, I think it's okay if a Web 2 incumbent still benefits. And the reason I use those examples is there aren't great Web3 companies right now. Like I would love it if there were a true decentralized version of a running app or music app or any other app, and that they could operate on my data in a decentralized local way, like machine learning at the edge, on-device algorithms. But those are quite a few years away. Like there's not going to be any such company with 100 million users anytime in the short term. Republic is agnostic. Republic's making that data available, putting it in an organized repository, and setting the groundwork for those apps to emerge over time and be more successful than they otherwise would have been. And so I don't view it as an either or even a trade-off. Like we do our work, which is get the data, organize it, make it available. Then the user says, well, if there's a great Web 2 app that wants to make use of it and give me value, I'll use that today. If there's a great Web 3 app, I'll give it to that Web 3 app tomorrow and they can give me value. Let me build that argument one step further. Today we strengthen Strava, but tomorrow we have pulled down all the Strava data. Like if a Web 3 decentralized running app comes along and has a better treatment of user data, a better value proposition for users, it's really miserable if I have to throw away all my Strava data and start fresh in that Web3 version of Strava, de-Strava, right? Decentralized Strava. But if instead there's a repository full of all of my Strava data, neatly organized, and when I hit go for de-Strava, it's got my 5 years of history, we just made de-Strava 10 times better and help them accumulate users. So Strava is the recipient of the data today, but it's the donor of the data tomorrow. Like it just depends on which use case you're talking about. For us, we're totally agnostic. We are creating a repository of all of your data, and sometimes one app is a winner and it's a Web 2 app. Sometimes that very same app is a donor of data. Sometimes a Web 3 app will be a winner. It kind of doesn't matter. Like it's whoever raises their hand and says, hey user, we can offer you value today if you give us access to this data or allow us to point to that repository of your data.
Yeah, I'm with you. But I think, you know, if we're talking about where we're going to spend our time, I kind of view it as like, okay, so you have like Strava, you have Spotify, you have all your data sources here, and then maybe like Republic's an interoperability layer. And then that interoperability layer allows like the next Strava to actually come in and take, you know, through Republic, it can see Spotify and Strava and then build something that's like more equitable as far as like you get the user experience and you don't have to like actually give your data, because Strava, if you give it to Strava, then you're gonna play by their terms and they're gonna do all this other stuff that they'll never pay you for or whatever. And so I think we could just let people bring it into the Republic space and then let app developers develop like those new things on it, and we can build a few of those to kind of seed the idea and like build the framework or whatever. Kind of like I could put that little like Spotify thing in the app, and then I could put the Strava thing in the app, and then I'll let users combine those together, and now they've got this thing that they didn't have to like give Republic any data for. It's all happening like locally on their device or something, versus like hey, Strava, do you want to like make a deal for Republic users' data or something? Which I'm not really personally interested in. That sounds terrible to me.
Oh,
but-
I don't imagine us making deals with anybody. I
Okay.
imagine this all being totally in the hands of the user. Strava can ping a user and say, hey, user, we can see on your device, or we have some mechanism for knowing, or we just ask you, do you have Republic? Whatever it may be.
Hmm.
The user makes that call. We never go individually work with Strava or Spotify in these scenarios. The user simply chooses either a Web 2 or a Web 3 version of an app that he or she wants to use and is in charge of sort of saying, yes, you offer me sufficient value that you should either get to have my data, then I send it to you, or operate on my data locally, which would be the Web 3 version of it.
Mhm. Sorry, Christian, I see you have your hand up.
Yeah, it's kind of like on the similar vein, like the way I could think, like if you take like Spotify right now, their kind of recommendation algorithm, and really like on all the Web2 ones, they have like kind of this singular recommendation algorithm they use for everyone, because they designed themselves the only ones in their data. And honestly, it probably usually doesn't work that well. Like I hate my Spotify algorithm. Like I feel like it really kind of puts you in a box the more you use it. And so I can imagine more in like a future sense where Spotify, the company, where they're doing their value of kind of serving the music, but the recommendation engine is going to be more decentralized, where multiple companies can try and train their own recommendation engine on that source data. And so Republic kind of being able to connect and make the same data available to many other smaller companies that are training and designing algorithms, which they can then kind of like sell to these Web 2 or Web 3 apps to kind of plug into their apps in that sense. And so, yeah, just on that flow between I'm making my data available to this app here, and like I'm going to add value. There's like kind of that piece in there which like doesn't even involve Republic, for someone's got to like kind of train on that data. Someone's got to like be able to play with it in order to kind of serve it up to these apps to use. And so being able to, because so before, as opposed to, yeah, us working with Strava, there's like a piece in the like teams in the middle that are taking the data from Republic, then turning them into useful insights and like algorithms, and then serving it to like the app itself.
Yeah, I'm kind of viewing like in a fully realized app, you could just kind of swipe through different dashboards that would they would all be fed from your data, but they would not, the developers just make the dashboard and like bring in this part of the user's data, this part of the user's data, but that data is not like on the developer's server or something. You can just like swipe through a bunch of, dashboards, whatever looks coolest to you or gives you like the insights that you want, and you don't have to like worry about like integrating with this app just to get their dashboard. I have to download this, I have to download the Garmin app to get the Garmin dashboard. I have to download Strava to get the Strava dashboard, and then those two data sets can't ever talk to each other or something. It's kind of like all the data comes here, and then you can do different views of it and different like machine learning models. Like maybe there's some environmental group that is trying to like build this AI model, and I'm really passionate about that. And so even though it's not paid, I'm going to send like my data that they need to train that. And I'm like, that's great. I'm just going to give that to you. And then over here, there's like some commercial operation that is trying to like make better recommendations. I'm like, well, I'm not really a fan of that use case, but if you're going to pay me like pretty well for my data and de-anonymize it, then I'll send it over there.
Awesome. I wouldn't call it too early to prepare for, but this has been great. Thanks everyone. Thanks like on the discussion. Look forward to kind of staying involved.
Yeah,
Everyone.
thank you.
Do you think I think we like kind of nailed down the long-term vision. I think that's like done. Now it's just figuring out that those short-term elements. Because there is like Summit, I do also like some elements of what you brought up, Summit. Like we all see like Web 2 and Web 3 like in very binary ways. Like, Web 2 is evil. We don't want to touch Web 2 things. But in some way, I train a lot and I used to use Strava a lot, but I'm still waiting for the Web 3 Strava. So I'm not using anything now. But as Summit said, like the day it'll be there, I'm like looking forward to taking all my Strava stuff that's still on there and bringing it to like the Strava. So there is like, I don't know. we've got some good ideas now. We just have to think what we
Well,
want.
let me just, Phil, let me double click on that. We probably make it more favorable for dStrava to come into existence
Yeah.
if all of the data is ready to be imported. Somebody right now is like, okay, am I really going to try to take on Strava? It has 100 million users. Am I going to, well, how am I going to do that? Are users really going to abandon an app that works so beautifully that has all this? Like Strava has, look, Web 2, Web 3, like that's a very, very religious, abstract debate that I don't think 99.999% of users care about. Here's the reality. Strava is an awesome app, period,
Mhm.
full stop. I pay $10 a month and it's money well spent. I'm surprised that you stopped using it, Phil. Like you must really feel passion for Web 3 versus Web 2 because it's a damn good app. And there's a huge, like $100 million mountain of R&D before dStrava is anywhere near as
Yeah.
useful as current Strava. So like, I think that we shouldn't get hung up on the religion. We should simply say that having all of your data is agnostic to any one religion. It's good, it's an inherent virtue, and it doesn't matter to us whether the user sees fit to get more value out of data via Web 2 apps or Web 3 apps. Like it would be crazy to say we
Yeah.
only want you to get more value via Web 2 apps. Like that would be absurd. We should just say that having all of your data at your fingertips allows you to get loads more value wherever you want and whenever you want. And I think it's gravy that we actually create slightly more favorable conditions for Web3 versions of apps to exist because they get to immediately incorporate long historical sets from users. There's just no way you can make a new music app with zero preferences and like years and years worth of listing data and playlist history and expect that to be successful for users. But if all that data is sitting there, you have a huge leg up.
Mhm.
So
Yeah,
I think that we are A, agnostic, and B, doing a good job of helping usher in those new apps by giving them a key component that they're missing. Sorry, Phil. Keith, go ahead.
Yeah, you might need to stop your video again because it's you're cutting out every once in a while. But yeah, I think to me, Web 3 subsumes Web 2, just like Web 2 subsumes Web 1. I mean, you could still go out and build like a GeoCities like type page on the web. Like you could do that. It's just like that the use case evolved and the needs evolved and the technology evolved. So now that's like not interesting anymore. And I think, you know, Web 2 is still going to be like, we're going to have everything that's here now, but it's just going to either be better or not interesting. Like when you apply digital property rights and control and data sovereignty, and it's like people are either going to change their business model or somebody's just going to copy the UI and UX of, you know, the old business model. It's like had some good ideas like Strava and then bring it over here and it's like 1,000 times better. I think, I mean, you can, yeah, there's $100 million of R&D that's in the Strava app, but now that that's been done, I think you can just like look at the Strava app and like recreate it pretty quickly. But yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
This might be putting the cart before the horse, but would it make sense to have a list of like apps like that that are well known, that are used heavily, that you're able to download your data from? I mean, I'm wondering just having a repository of like, okay, these top 20 apps you can download your data from. Those would be a focus for us because then we can pull all that data and then that can determine where we want to go next. Thanks, Summit.
Yeah, I like that. I mean, Summit, I think you've been doing some of that research, right?
I have not done it formally, but
Okay.
you know, you always see me chiming in with like, oh, I tried it here, I tried it there, I tried it. But I think that taking it up the next level, as Jenny suggested, is really good. It's sort of a carrot and stick. I want to celebrate the companies that do a good job, and I want to shame the companies, not in such an aggressive way, but kind of create a gap for the companies that don't do as good of a job. And so Strava fits in the middle. They do offer a lot of your data, but you have to click some scary buttons like delete account or get data. We aren't sure which one will happen if you click this button, but feel free to try.
Yeah, totally. I mean, and that's why I wanted to do this from the product perspective is like, to force these decisions where like if you looked at that dark pattern of Strava and be like, that's not good, that shouldn't happen, like that's very like user hostile. And then in the old world, and how I started is like, oh, we got to like lobby politicians and like regulation and like we need GDPR and like all this stuff. And then some of those things happen not very quickly, like 5 years too late. And then companies just kind of like find a way around it anyway. And then it like nothing ever really changes as far as like the power dynamic. And so like I'm really here with Republic being like, let's just make the product that forces everybody to like play ball because it's like a better user experience and people want to use it more than all these crappy like exploitative patterns. Emery, go ahead.
I think if you can find this value proposition, like some kind of combination of, you know, input, output, and then some kind of value adds that Republic could be delivering, this could really fuel something that could enable Republic to get more users. And then if we have more users, we might have enough users to have optional opt-in for monetizing the data. And that could then fuel, you know, some revenue for not only Republic, but then also to users that are okay with having data monetized. But then like, this is now really taking a look at like, what is the value proposition that we could be delivering? And like, I'm really excited to see what's going to, you know, where this is headed.
Cool. Yeah, I'm glad you're excited by it. I think we're just over the hour. I could kind of recap what I have on my plate to do from the meeting, and then if anyone else wants to take any of this on, can go ahead. Unless there's anything else you want to get to before we close.
Oh, Submit, I deleted my I know, I still have my Strava, but I don't use it because of the social aspect. That's why I felt like I wasted too much time on there looking at what my friends were doing.
That's funny.
Nice.
Guys, I gotta run.
Okay. Thanks
Thank you
again.
so much. Talk to
Yeah.
you soon.
Bye, Summit.
Bye.
Bye.
So let's recap, Keith.
Oh yeah. So I'm gonna put the Discord and Twitter on the homepage. Put Discord on the blog nav. Look into like how we can have a global nav on each platform so that kind of create that circle and you don't get you're not in a dead end on any one of these. And then can we get like a @republic.io workspace going for people who are contributing? And then I think I can kick off the FAQ page, or you or John can, Phil. And then I also have like starting to research that top 20, these 20 apps where you can download your data, just as like maybe a page on the blog that we can link to or something like that.
Yeah, Keith, I was thinking for the FAQ, maybe the Google Doc would be the easiest way, you know, for everyone to contribute to that document. So maybe we could go down that road. I'll create a Google Doc and post the link on Discord.
Okay.
And then the list Jenny was talking about, should we go down the Google Doc road also?
Yeah, I think the only limitation of the Google Doc is like not having any like back and forth exchange. Like in my experience, the comments are kind of hard to thread through. So like if we're collaborating on like the FAQ or the 20 apps, and then it's like, oh, you know, I heard this about that app or whatever, and it's not just like a dumping in, but we're like talking about what should be top 20 or something like that, then I think it should be in the forum. But if it's really just like, it's almost like I kind of view things starting in the forum and then going to a Google Doc when it kind of gets out of control, and then you're just taking stuff that was mentioned in the forum and then consolidating it.
Yeah, I don't hate the forum either. I kind of like it too. I have to get used to using it more, but it does serve its purpose. Maybe, you know what? Let's do the FAQ on the forum.
Well, I think,
Thoughts,
you know,
Emery?
Hmm?
Do you have any
Sorry?
opinion on the forum, Google Doc? Discord?
No, I fully understand why Keith went the route with the forum. It's just so
Yeah.
much more structured. I think now it doesn't seem like a big deal because Discord is not as cluttered. But then if you get to a certain size, and if we now add Discord to a bunch of places, it might
Yeah.
get there. So I think having the forum set up is pretty cool and good to have like more structured discussions. Yeah, and I mean, whatever works, let's just do trial and error, and then we can change everything, right? Nothing is set in stone.
Yeah.
and I hate suggesting it because everyone like hates more process, but like if you're down, Phil, we could try, like, where clarity could be in this is taking an idea or just like a thing that we're trying to do, like a fact page, and then being the center point for, okay, these are the forum posts that are relevant to the fact page. Here's the Google Doc links, because somebody might like share another Google Doc that they started, and then here are like the Discord discussions or whatever, and then that can be kind of like the thing to talk about, like the meta of completing a task, like, okay, we need to do this next and we need to do this next or whatever.
Where's the Clarity? Okay, I found it. It's in the general channel. I've never used Clarity before, so I'll have to wrap my head around it.
It's basically just like Notion, but with tokens. And
Okay.
if we want to do that at some point, and they're very accessible. Like I just had a call with, you know, the founder, and they're shipping a lot. So it's just like, they're kind of mission aligned, and like, it's a pretty usable product at the moment.
So then for the FAQs, well, I'll log into Clarity and I'll let you know how it goes, and then I can discuss what process we should do.
Yeah, if you just log in, then I can kind of assign you to stuff, and you can kind of get a feel for it. It's just like,
Keith, I find so the two first sentences on the vision, I think could be a good way to start changing the messaging on the website. Because, you know, I said I wanted to work on the messaging, but now our vision has been like really taking shape in the past weeks. I think before we weren't really at a point where we fully understood like what we wanted to showcase on the website, but I think now we finally have like, you know, like a few, like, you know, those sentences, there's some good elements from your vision statement that could be put on there.
okay.
Yeah, I think maybe we can change it, but I also think depending on what the value proposition might become, it might need some revision again. And then Keith, you mentioned you might want to have like a redo on the website. This is something I can try to help with as well. Some of the marketing tasks that are not coding related. Or, you know, probably we will need Summit or someone else that like understands the value proposition a lot better, and then we can take it from there. But like, yeah, I definitely agree with you, Phil. It makes a lot more sense than just saying get paid for your data. When,
Yeah.
you know, that's like a lot more long term than
Yeah.
than the.
Yeah. Because what's nice with the vision, I find, Keith, like that paragraph that you highlighted, it, you know, it's like, it's really what a vision statement is. It's the dream. That's what we want in the future. We don't really know how we're going to get there, but it's the vision, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I can, I'll mess around when I'm doing the top nav stuff with the website. It's pretty easy just to like throw in maybe like a block quote or something of that first sentence, or I don't know, I'll kind of play around with it and then screenshot it or send it around like in a preview.
Send it to your marketing boys.
Yeah. let you spin it into gold.
Let's see.
All right, guys, so I'm gonna get going. Have a good
You
weekend.
too. You too.
All right, thanks.
Bye bye.
Bye.
All right, bye.